Hey everybody, Norm here. So if you're like me, you like to be in control. Also, if you're like me, you like to work with a lot of instruments, likely underneath automation. In a modern laboratory, you're going to have a collection of, DC to daylight, as we like to say, style of instruments, everything like what we've got in our chassis here and beyond, oscilloscopes and what the case might be. But in modern laboratories, given the nature of kind of remote work or just even the ability to work from your desk and not in the lab with compressed climate controlled air at 60 degrees Fahrenheit blowing on you, you might not want to always be sitting at the bench. Well, if you want to be able to go ahead and create automation, if you want to even just interact with your devices kind of over a remote login, how do you do that with modern instruments? Well, with a lot of traditional instruments like the ones that we've got here and maybe some other ones that you can see behind me, each one might have the ability to discreetly log into maybe through a web page or through a different interface. But long story short, either your automation engineers need to give you a unified interface to interact with all of those instruments, or you need to yourself log into each one individually to try to configure them independently. But you don't typically have a unified interface. Well, today what we want to talk about is when you're working with modular instruments and NI equipment, one of the things that we give you the ability to do using our free software Instrument Studio is the ability to give a unified interface to talk to multiple instruments on a single configurable experience that ideally streamlines your workflow. So today, let's go ahead and dive in, figure out how to create your unified experience using Instrument Studio to configure modular instruments with NI. Let's go. Okay, so we've seen this display before. We've talked about monitor and debug in a different video or just getting started in general. But a couple things that we really want to highlight in are maybe the finer points of working with this, a bit of a pro tip if you're going to work with an Instrument Studio. So within the manual layout capability, a few different things that are probably pretty relevant to know. In one, certain instruments can only have one thing displayed in the large panel. Like if I were to take I've got two network analyzers in my system. I cannot take two network analyzers and put them both into a large panel, as maybe you can kind of see there. It's a kind of blocked out. Another thing to note is that certain things can't go into the small panels. So obviously in this case, also with the network analyzer, I can't put it there. It's just got too much display information and too much capability. With a signal generator, on the other hand, we could put it in a large or in a small, so we've got the ability to kind of configure our UI a little bit right here. And so what happens up happening is each time that you're configuring one of these layouts, you're configuring a single tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and this is basically going to give me a generator panel and our a network analyzer and our generator panel to basically go ahead and look at two separate instruments from within a single interface. Once again, this is, I'm currently remoting into my PXI system. I'm sitting right next to it, but in all cases, it could be across the lab or you could be at home logged in, and that gives you some good capability. Now, one of the other features that I wanted to be able to highlight is that, well, I'm using my network analyzer and my signal generator. I can't use both of those at the same time. I wanted to use my signal analyzer, not my network analyzer. So what I could do is I can very easily, through that same edit layout that you may have seen in a different video, I can remove an individual element there, and now I'm going to assign my signal analyzer to that large panel. Once again, kind of giving me that reconfigurability from a single interface. I'm getting multiple instruments all contained. Now, another aspect of this entire display that's relevant is, I've got my generator, my analyzer, things are laid out well, but I've also got other instrumentation. And while I could theoretically add, say, my DC, being the ones of interest, I could continue to add those to the small panel and kind of compress the whole area over there. Well, I want to be able to see the traces of my DC and my RF at the same time. It's a very realistic desire. So instead of going through and actually just trying to add more things onto the display as what we've got, I'm actually going to go through and press this plus, and right here I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a new tab to my overall display. Now in this case, I could theoretically add, I could just say, where is it, SMU power supply, and it will select, I think, the first supply. There's some heuristics in there that will declare what it is. But once again, I like to be in control. I like to say exactly what goes where. So I'm going to go ahead and hit manual layout, and it's of course going to give me that same tab. But now what I'm going to do is go ahead and select a large panel. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a large panel for both of my SMUs, and then a small panel for my non-SMUs, basically the DC power supplies that don't have the precision kind of measuring devices that an SMU would. And this is a good DC panel. Now that basically I've got these both configured, I can see that, hey, now I've got my 3 channels over there. I can see my 2 channels separately. Everything is running, and I can kind of look at how things are updating. So all of this makes sense. This is good. The traces are not updating as fast because I've got another piece of automation going. So we're seeing that. But let's go ahead and leave this as it is. Now, as this goes, one of the things that we really want to highlight in terms of laying this out and saving the multi-instrument configuration is the fact that we're working within a project environment that you can call back at a later point in time, which will save all of the configuration and the layout properties that you had previously. So in this case, I'm just going to want to go ahead and double click up here and rename this RF, AC, and Gen. And then same thing up here. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can rename this while it's running here. And then this is going to DC and SMU. Add an extra space in there. All right. So now I've got those 2 things running, and you can see over in the project over here that that is also has been reflected as well, and they're all stored underneath a single project. So these are files that exist on your hard drive that have been saved, 1 configuration for each panel that's collecting multiple instruments in that unified display. And lastly, the thing that I should end up doing is I should be able to just go ahead and hit Control S to save. I'm going to say where and what I want my project to be saved as. So this is going to be basically multi instrument, DC, and RF, saved within my default Instrument Studio projects folder, and then go ahead and hit save. And then also I'm going to save each one of the individual panels and their current configuration. And you can see that keeps getting updated because of the other automation that I still have running in the background. But in all these different instances, what we have is that better display. Now, one last thing to note out of all of this, once again, keep in mind, what would you have needed to do to get the same experience out of the box with other instruments that you've got? Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Lastly, another nice feature that we've got built in here is, let's say, for instance, actually, I should be able to do this. Let me go ahead and put this at 10 gig so we can actually see a signal coming through here. Is that going to work for me? Turn that on. Let's see, -50. Hey, we see a signal there. Perfect. So now we have a signal coming through. But I want to see them simultaneously. I like monitors. I have 3 monitors here set up with me. I've got a 52-inch TV, 10-inch, 13-inch monitor in my laptop. But if you're in a lab and you want to see as it runs, as it updates, having that multiple discrete things visible without having to create a user experience in .NET or in LabVIEW or whichever technology you like, simply being able to say, hey, I want to take this display and I want to drag off that tab to another monitor. And now that creates a whole different tab, but it's all still within that same project. Actually, I can go ahead and click on those arrows on the right-hand side, and you can see that it hasn't created a brand new project. Each one of these individual configurations are all within the same project, and it's snapped out a totally different display. Now giving me the ability to look at multiple different displays for different instruments simultaneously with a single login to one interface. Now, this is only one picture. This is what's free with Instrument Studio when you're using modular instruments. Stay tuned for other story, or basically the rest of the story, when we talk about being able to augment this with third-party instruments and also being able to leverage the features and functionality of Instrument Studio. All right, so let's wrap it up here. What did we see? Well, one of the things is we said that you've got multiple instruments. You want to be able to look in them, control them. You want to be able to see what's going on, basically run your experiment, do your automation, monitor, do whatever you need. Being able to actually look at multiple instruments and control them from a unified interface can provide a lot of value. Not only viewing them and configuring them, but also now saving them, and the ability to actually leverage multiple monitors and multiple displays within a project-oriented framework can really, really accelerate your workflow leveraging NI instruments and Instrument Studio. Hope you feel more capable with the platform, and I'll see you next time with NI. Thanks.